Welcome to the Infinite Life podcast. I'm your host, Katische Haberfield. This podcast is a journey of discovery as we learn how the soul evolves over various incarnations to understand all about the complexities of being a human being who has to bravely navigate viewing life as a non-dualistic struggle between good and evil through consciousness-raising experiences that test our valor.
The change is deep, and when it's that deep, it's profound that you don't really see it because you're right in the middle of it. But it's like a flower doesn't open that. Some of them, they unfold. So it's you go through one of these unfolding and openings and becoming whatever, and it gets deep in, and it allows you to, it comes through your life, and you show up differently.
Our guest this week is Ailish Keating. Ailish is a renowned rapid transformational therapy practitioner with a presence in both Ireland and the United States. With extensive training in RTT, hypnotherapy, access bars, yoga and meditation, Ailish recognized the limitations of existing methods in addressing unresolved emotions. This led her to create her proprietary emotional release therapy technique that enables clients to process intense emotions and trauma effectively, yielding remarkable results in a short period. A life-threatening condition forced Ailish to relinquish control and trust the universe, which profoundly restructured her life. She utilized her extensive knowledge and skills to navigate her healing journey successfully. Today she works with international clients from diverse backgrounds, helping them uncover and overcome emotional blocks. Part of restructuring her life drew her closer to connecting with the earth and has allowed her to travel to spiritual locations across the world. These journeys have opened up different levels of awareness and intuition and an inner joy that she shares with people. Welcome back to the Infinite Life podcast. I'm Katische Haberfield, and this week we have Ailish Keating as our guest. Welcome, Ailish.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
And we're in the middle of a midlife series where I just suddenly thought, I want to put a pause on the sessions that I do and just talk to some people that are really fascinating and interesting and are in a similar midlife, so somewhere between 40 and 60, doing things that seem to be capturing my eye whenever I'm on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, and ask the question, why have you gone down that path? Why has this drawn you? Because I think that we go through so many changes in the middle of our life. We ask a lot of questions about ourselves and where we're going, where we've been, who we are. And people process that in different ways. Some people have to deal with divorces. Some people deal with illnesses. Some people deal with death. Some people deal with major career changes, all of that. But what I've noticed with you, Ailish, is your travels have been really interesting to me. Lots of beautiful pictures about a lot of places that I don't know anything about. Being in Australia, growing up in Australia, not really having traveled much in Ireland. I've been to Dublin, but not much else in Ireland. And so looking at some of your Facebook posts and thinking, why is Ailish going to these beautiful places? They're beautiful. They all seem to be themed around goddesses and understanding more about Celtic history and the land. And I just thought I'd like to bring you on and have a chat to you about why you're going to all these wonderful places, what it does for you and your life, and how you feel about yourself and your life, and the insight that it has, and how it links into your careers and your spiritual understanding of your journey as a soul.
Right.
So I guess the goddesses would probably be a great place to start.
The goddesses would be, yeah. So it's funny, actually, as you were saying all of that there, what I realized about a few of the places that we're probably going to talk about is the time that I got to them was as a result of almost like insisting on what I needed to do for myself versus following another kind of agenda outside of that. And now I'm just realizing that as you said that. So when where I started, the first place, so when I moved back from the States to Ireland, and I was having a hard time connecting into the landscape, I was trying to find, I knew I was looking for something, right? But I couldn't quite see it. Every place was quite busy. And even going to some places, I wasn't really clicking into stuff that much. And then that set me on this kind of a discovery mission of trying to find out, to get a little bit more underneath the surface. One of the things that has been absent from a lot of Irish, what we're taught in schools or what we would have grown up with, was a presence of, other than obviously the mother, the Virgin Mary in churches, almost absent of any other strong female character. Even in history, there's a few random ones. There's Queen Maeve, and there's a few Saint Bridget, but she was actually a goddess Bridget, as it turns out, way before she became a Saint Bridget, and that brings her to more current timelines in the last 2,000 years versus she existed previously. So on my understanding or quest to try and find out more information, it's a little bit confusing. Irish mythology and history, I call it mythology first, is very quite confusing. You start reading into it and the stories are quite, there's lots of them, and how do they connect? At least it's taken me quite a while to get my arms around them. There's some people who've studied it their entire lives and they're well versed in it. In my researching of it and in my looking at it, that the goddesses are actually quite prominent figures in the formation of Ireland and the creation of Ireland. And actually in these mythologies, they play fairly strongly, almost equally as strongly as some of the male characters are in it. So that kind of started me looking. After I went a couple of places without necessarily searching the mythology, I'm coming back and wondering what sort of experience I had. I realized, okay, I need to start researching the mythology of an area or a place before I visit it, so I know what I'm walking into. So I started doing all of that. One day I went with my sister, and it was on my birthday, and I'd wanted to go for a hike. She brought me to this place where I met an individual, this guy, Harry, and he had a book. He had this remote wilderness walk. And in this book, it was a book all about how the round towers in Ireland, I know you've seen pictures of them, right? They're probably these tall structures. We were told growing up, that's where they hid the gold and the good stuff when the Vikings were raiding. And it makes no sense, right? I'm summarizing it, but that's it. Means, and as it turns out, those round towers are actually energy frequency generators that they believe that they're ancient Egyptian technology or equivalent of the ancient Egyptian technology. And anytime you visit one, you'll see that the grass grows really right next to it. So whatever frequency these things are given off, it's not to hide the chalices and whatever. And you wouldn't do that because you could see it from about 2 miles away, 3 miles away. You'd be like, oh, that's where all the good stuff is. It doesn't make any sense. Once this conversation and book, it's like ancient agriculture or something is the name of the book, opened up I'm like, oh, all of these places that we've been visiting and looking at, I need to look at them a bit differently. I need to connect with them a little bit differently, because anything I grew up with isn't necessarily current to where I am now. Then I started digging deeper into the goddesses. So I decided, okay, I couldn't really connect to anyone who's really doing any kind of goddess work that I really resonated with. I don't really resonate so much with a lot of the real symbolic stuff. Like every now and then I wear a dress, but I don't usually do that. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go on my own little quest. I'm just going to go do this thing. And I was, at the time, I work with a shaman, and at the time I was given we were working on this project, and it was her recommendation. I've been trying to find a place to go at a certain planetary alignment, just because I think it must have been around it was around the Lions Gate. Yes, the Lions Gate, say 3 years ago, that window. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go at this time to someplace in Ireland and do something. So that's kind of it. So I gotten these, and I was given the try and connect to Ireland, to Urulu in Australia, and also to the pyramids in Egypt. So these were the two places I had connections with. So I decided I'm going to go to Uisneach. Uisneach is where when Ireland was at one point taken over, there's a story of this goddess Eru, And Eru was met by the Milesians as they came in from the south of Ireland. And they met her there, and she agreed to die. She would allow herself to die and be buried on that spot as long as Ireland would be named after her. So hence the name Ireland, Era, Eru, right? So she's a pretty significant figure, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to start there. And in Uisneach, which is right in the heart of Ireland, there's a big stone. It's called the Cat Stone. And I'd gone to this location 2 other times with trying to get to the Cat Stone. Once the weather was terrible. Second time we didn't have, myself and my friend had an oppositional guide with us where we just weren't getting the right connection to go there. So I'm like, okay, this is my 3rd time trying. I'm going to go this time. So this time I was able to get there finally. And I was able to do what I wanted to do with the rock. And I was like, okay, that was Eru. I've visited Eru now. And I go there, and you could feel the energy of this rock. This rock, to me, I could feel it you could feel it standing next to it. Now, I've studied energy. I've studied Reiki. I've done RTT. I've done a bunch of different things. I'm aware somewhat of energy. But in this one, I could feel the energy quite palatably. If you were in a session with somebody, I could feel it coming off this particular giant rock. So when I was leaving there, I was like, okay, I need to see Bridget. Now, Bridget is goddess from the Tuatha Dé Danann, and she's present in a lot of the wells and the waters. So I'm like, okay, I've gone to the earth. Now I should go to the water also as well. So I went to one of the wells where it was the St. Bridget's well, very close by there. And again, I was doing the same thing. I was connecting the places in Ireland, consciously just being present in these places. And in that place, I felt like I put a stone in the water and I felt this ripple of energy come out. It was almost like you'd imagine an eye opening. It was like something open. I was like, I don't know exactly what that was. That's amazing. Fantastic. So this kind of, you're there and you're like, okay, I'm at least feeling happy. Think I'm doing stuff. I don't have any agenda when I go places. I don't think I know better what needs to be done. Usually, generally, and anything that if I am doing anything, it's with an intention of a positive outcome for everyone and everything. So I'm not going, that's where I usually sit with this sort of thing. So then I decided, I've visited 2 goddesses already. So down near where I live, there's the largest stone circle in Ireland is the Grange Stone Circle. And right next to it is Lochgur. And Lochgur wasn't even, when I grew up here first, it wasn't even known as a destination or a location per se. It was only really discovered sometime since I left, or at least became more well known. As it turns out, my neighbor who lived next door to me, her family owns the land that the stone circle was on. So she'd mentioned, in addition to this large stone circle, that there was a stone circle in the field next to it, and there was another big stone in the other field next to it. So I was like, okay. So I hadn't been there since I'd heard this information. So I went over to the lake where Anya is supposed to be buried, or the lake is representing a part of her, and I just continued my process. It's now 3rd day of a triple goddess tour. I've done my 3 goddesses, and I'm like, okay, I'm really near the Greenstone Circle. I should probably just go there on my way home, because that's a lot of it, because it's on my way. So I'm here in my head, I'm justifying it. So I go to the Green Circle and I walk barefoot in there for a while. And this lady and her 2 women came over and they asked me a question as there's a little fairy alcove right off the corner of it in one section. And I'd been to the 2nd circle at this point. I'm coming out, and this woman, they asked me, what else can they do in the area? And I was like, there's another stone circle in the field over there if you want to go. And there's a big stone in the field over there. That's what I would do. They couldn't go to the lake. So I said, you can do these things here. They were waiting for a bus, right? So I'm about to leave. I'm like, you know what? I really should go over to that other stone. I know it's there. I'm like, I'll go over there. And I'm leaving. And when I'm leaving, there's the 2 women are in, I'm getting a little emotional about this now because it was just so beautiful. The 2 women I spoke to were the only 2 women left. And one of the women was doing a yoga pose in the middle of the circle. I was going, that's really interesting. There's 3 of us here, 3 women, the last day of a triple goddess tour. I'm at least going to go over and talk to them and just let them know. You know, they were the 2 women who asked me the question earlier. And I said, I just wanted to let you know that I'm just at the end of this 3-day triple goddess tour that I've been doing myself. And I just think it's really interesting that there's the 3 of us here in the middle of this circle with whatever. And like one of the women, her name was Jacqueline, her eyes opened up and she's like, I'm really interested in that. Tell me about that. And I'm like, what I told her a little bit of what I'm doing. And I said I was going around with the intention of connecting the places to Egypt. And she's like, we're from Egypt. And Jacqueline's, I work next to the pyramids. And it's like, my daughter works on an island on the Nile teaching. And oh my God, this is, you can't plan these things,
No.
obviously. You set yourself up, right? So that's my triple goddess. That was my first connection in with the triple goddesses on my own individual kind of questing. And that's where that particular journey brought me.
And how did completing that triple goddess journey make you feel? How do you feel that it was any different to your need to connect to Ireland more? Did you feel like it accomplished it? Did it shift anything in with you?
Yeah, so it felt like I was able to I felt like I was giving the recognition to the goddess aspect of, be it myself and of the land. So there's a real recognition and honoring of those two things. But it was given back to me in a very private, personal, and directly, like, this is kind of a way which makes you go, if nothing else, it makes you realize how little, at least for me, that you understand. But yeah, it truly did. I was like, oh, all these things that I'm doing, which I don't know if they have any impact or if they mean anything. And it was really that. Because you can try and set things up and you can go with intentions, but the intentions don't always, it doesn't give to you like that. You know what I mean? That was like, wow. It meant many things. Trust yourself, follow where you're guided, what you're thinking about doing is correct and appropriate, and these things can line up. On a spiritual level, it was huge recognition for all of these invisible things were kind of materialized, right? Oh, it's not my imagination. I have a great imagination, but it's not my, if that makes sense. Now, other people may not have those gaps between their belief and what they see, but it was just so personal and so intimate and so personalized also as well that it really made me go, wow. Like even in my sketchy thinking at the end, oh, I really should do this. Okay, I'll do it. The last little stretch, that made everything from back to the beginning of all of that make complete sense. I became good friends with Jacqueline and we created a business together doing the tours and offering tours. Our meeting is so divinely guided. And for them to be there was very random. They had to get a bus to the location because they were traveling Ireland and it's a rural location. It wasn't an accident. It was a serendipity, not a coincidence.
And so together you have done a tour to Egypt recently, I think I saw.
Yeah, so we did a tour to Egypt. I went last year for the equinox, I should say. I wanted to be there for December 21st because there are some alignments with the pyramids, but there are also some alignments with Hatshepsut's temple down in the Luxor area. So ended up putting it out that the tour was happening on December 21st, but it coincided. My father passed away on the 22nd in June last year. And right at the time I was about to start announcing it and putting it out, that happened. So I didn't get the chance to I just withdrew for a couple of months. With the journey going to Egypt, at that moment in time, then it was just going to be about me and Jacqueline on the trip. And I didn't have other people with me. In many ways, how I journey sometimes, I believe it's also meant to be quite like that when I am free to move around, and sometimes you can't do that when you're working with groups. So when you're free to just go as you're drawn to go and stop here or not stop here, you can be really intuitive with the process. And when people trust you, they'll allow you to do that also. But it's a very important part. It's where I receive the most. So I went to Egypt. We stayed for the first few nights near the pyramids near Giza. And I had a local guide there also as well. In addition to Jacqueline, I worked with, she was still working. She's a teacher down there. So I went out with a couple of local guides doing different things. So I went to, it was amazing to see the pyramids. I hadn't had a huge draw to the pyramids all my life. It wasn't like, oh, I need to get there. But it was really this kind of recent work that sparked okay, I probably should go there. And lots of people have been drawn there for a long time. And obviously they're awesome and impressive, but they're so big. And as I researched more, I could see their significance more. So I had lots of reasons to go. So we went into the big pyramid, and that was very interesting and amazing. But what's most amazing about them is just their sheer size. Like,
Mm.
they're huge. Like, most
It's
pictures
hard
don't.
to imagine. I haven't been,
Yeah,
so yeah.
yeah, no, they're genuinely huge. Like, the bottom blocks are like would be up to about this high. If you're
Right.
standing up, that's just one, and then there's like a gazillion many, and they're built. They're only like 2 or 3 inches off center at the very, very top of all of this. So I got to the tomb and the main pyramid, and that was like, maybe if you were sitting there when there weren't so many people around, you would have a chance to just really be quieter and connected more. But where I really felt the connection was when I walked around them. So, and I'd imagine, this is me imagining, I imagine there's lots of ley lines and energy lines coming and going from many, many places. So I felt the most energetic hits at random locations out and around on the complex, as opposed to in the building, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
And that was really quite beautiful, because I could feel my energy change. Like, and I was all of a sudden, I'm like, really, like, I'm going like, I'm like, I got it. And then at the end of that, I was out with a different guy that day. It was in the morning of the solstice early, because I wanted to go out. I wanted to go back. And at the end of it, I got pretty much in alignment with the pyramids and with the Sphinx and where I was. And I took a photograph then, like one of these efforts. You could see it in my face, just had whatever that was. I can't describe it, but it's just when you've achieved it, you've gotten the reward for what you came for, but you don't really know what it was specifically, but you can feel it in your body. I could see it in my face. And if I show people that picture, they're like, oh yeah, you have that, whatever that was, you captured it there.
It's like an energetic glow.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was another thing that was amazing about Egypt was just the chaos of it. It is nuts, like camels in the back of pickup trucks and horses in the back of pickup trucks, like people driving 3 or 4 to the back of a scooter, a woman sitting on the back of the scooter, 2 people in front of her carrying a baby in her arms, going like 50 miles an hour, not great roads. Nuts. But it just makes you think about life very differently, if nothing else. Like how Egyptians live their lives, they're very alive in the moment, not all cushioned up. Obviously, there's plenty of that too, I'm sure. But that was the other thing that really struck me about the country. It was refreshingly insane.
And you went to Dendara?
Yeah, I went to Dendara. So again, I had to try and I'm drawn to. I'm not so interested in ISIS. I'm not so interested in some of these people, which is the reason lots of people go there. They don't resonate for me, and they haven't. So in my searching of where to go and what to do, I'm like, okay, I'm not so interested in over there. It doesn't speak to me, but over here does. So I went to Dendara. I had to, I ended up going down. We were down there for a couple of days, and I got a local guide to bring me up there. So I went to Dendara. I felt most on the roof of that temple. But in it, it's so big and so huge. It's so inspiring, even the architecture alone. The places of the temples I've visited, I would say that one had some of the stronger energy that I could feel when I was there. Some of them feel sleepy though, but the beauty of that temple, it's just gorgeous. The ceilings, the big columns, and all of that. Now, this is also day 5 of my being and visiting different places. Certainly imagine that my energy also at this stage you have to recalibrate when you're in the middle of these things. It's just like you recalibrate if you're in the middle of a mess, or you calibrate if you're in the middle of awe-inspiring architecture, even spirituality aside, just the sheer and with all the knowings and with the information about them. That was one of my favorite places that I visited, that temple, but nothing necessarily specific on it that I could say, okay, this moment or that moment there, but it was just the whole place. But also up on top of it, on the roof, I went up at the end, and that was just there was something there too as well. But again, it's hard you can't quite assess it. But also, it was interesting. So the goddess Hathor as well is quite interesting, right? Because she's from from a cow, right? So bovine. So it's from the animal. So if you think of the animals, you've got the large lion, the Sphinx, right? You've got the the Sphinx was, that many people believe was originally a line, but it was changed at some point to be like a pharaoh's head. At one point, that would have been a large line. And then you've got Hathor, who would be the, like, from the bovine, from the cow or whatever, these animals. They probably connect to the stars systems that have that have similar patterning, and that's probably, these beings are probably amplifications of star grids patterns on the ground, and they probably amplify the energies in these places. So I have a feeling that's what it is with the temples like Hathor's temple. I haven't looked into that very much, but I have no doubt. And even actually on the ceiling of them, you have all the little, the gold stars and the blue painted ceilings, which are just absolutely stunning. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
they're
associate that. I associate the Hathors with crown chakra and heart chakra,
okay.
with the galactic version of the Hathors anyway. So yeah, when you
Right.
say that you felt that energy at the top, I was like, that made complete sense to me, because whenever I talk about the Hathors, I feel my
Oh,
crown chakra
interesting.
open. But
Interesting.
because the galactic Hathors are all about agape love, unconditional love, and that's the frequency that they heal at. If you felt very calm and you felt it was beautiful, then
Yeah,
that would make
it
complete
feels
sense
more,
to me.
now that you're saying it, it felt more celestial than it did grounded. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
particular place. What is their connection? I'm curious from a celestial perspective, like from a stellar perspective with the Hathors. What do you understand?
So the expert person on that is Tom Kenyon. And so
Okay.
anyone who's listening, he's written books, and he's a sound healer. He used to work with the
Yeah.
Brain Research Institute,
Oh,
and he
I think
moved into
work.
sound healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he channeled for, I don't know, 20 years, the Hathors.
Okay.
And best just grab his books, because he's the authority on it, and he'd
Got it.
be able to explain it to you. But they're such the 10th dimensional.
Right.
So the frequency that it makes sense that they were involved with the Egyptians, because the pyramids are sound healing chambers, right?
Sure.
And the
Yeah.
Hathors are supposed to have taught them sound healing, is my understanding. But yeah, he's got some great books and some astounding sound recordings that you can do some healings with them and learn about the Hathors. For me, the information went in one ear and out the other, because I was just there for the sound.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I had sat and taken notes about the Hathors, fine, but I was there just to absorb the sound, because sound healing is my thing, and that's where I first started my spiritual journey, was with sound healing. So I was like, I'm just here for the galactic energy. Tom Kenyon, go Google him, and you can read everything that you need to know about the Hathors.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the Hathor temple, and there's people who will have done more research on them, and I think there's a lot of sometimes limitations to some of the research that you can do on these different places. Something like Tom's information sounds like it would be helpful. I go there and I feel, and I see what I notice, and I see what I take away from it. That's my kind of, if I have an agenda, that's it.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
what resonates with you and whether you need it or not. Somebody might get no interest in the Hathors.
Yeah.
And the next person will be like, oh, that was great. So
Oh, absolutely.
we're all different. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other interesting insights that you got about yourself and your intuition and your awareness from your overall travels in Egypt? Anything else that?
Yeah. So I know, like, I know that I've had past lives there, past experiences there. And for me, what this really allowed me to do was to, as I would see it, with the intention of reclaiming my connection to these parts of me by visiting these different places and by allowing myself just to be in these different places. So coming back from there, when these changes happen, when they're so deep and they're so inner, you don't really, it's not like, oh, I got this, that, or the other. My vibration was different. And this is what happens when I go these different places. Just last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I actually went down to St. Baum, which is the Mary Magdalene area. And same, so when I was coming back from Egypt, right, I feel fundamentally different. And it's not like any one thing that you can put your finger on. And it wasn't that now it's off my bucket list kind of thing. The change is deep. And when it's that deep, it's profound that you don't really see it because you're right in the middle of it. But it's like It's like a flower doesn't open that. Some of them, they unfold. So it's, you go through one of these unfolding and openings on becoming whatever, and that's, it gets deep in, and it allows you to, it comes through your life, and you show up differently. I think it's more grounding, actually, quite often, to go to these places. At least for me it was. I often find, and you work with people too as well, quite often the energy can be quite high. So to get the energy actually into the body and get it grounded, it's easy, very easy to be up here, and to actually get more physical and be down on the earth can actually, I don't know if I want to go there. So it's things, pulling myself down, connecting into the earth is always, I didn't only realize that in the last 5 years. I'm like, oh, I've been actually rooted in the sky. I need to be really grounded on earth. So these places allow me to do that, because there are places I really want to be in. And then I think when you leave them, you're shored up with their strength a little bit, or their whatever it is.
One of the things that I find remarkable is that you and some other of the podcast guests that are coming up at the moment is just carving out space. Just really want to congratulate you, which is the wrong word, but also the right word, in carving out this space and time to honor your own needs, especially as a mother, whereby you've recognized the need for rest, the need for a quest, the need to just go somewhere because you feel you should, and follow that intuition. For me, for example, over the last few years, my personal self, I've spent so much time doing with spiritual stuff and business stuff and the mum stuff, that I put myself to the bottom of the pile, which came
Right.
undone. So I guess that's also why I'm interviewing people who have taken this self-care to the next level, because I'm seeing in your journeys that which obviously is needed within myself. So just wanted to say, great, well done. I admire you for actually doing that, because it's absent in my life. And obviously today I went to a local mountain on the coast here and went for a walk. You'll see the picture on Facebook, and took a spectacular photos of the angels over the top of the mountain as I finished. Like, you couldn't make it up. As we see in other people's journeys, that which we also yearn for, long for, need to take action to. And it's the first step in you taking that action is just recognizing that's a piece of you that you need to honor. So yeah, just also saying it out loud for those who are listening that were drawn to this episode. There's something there about you for your own self-care and taking time to follow these ideas. You don't have to have a real reason or a bucket list. You're allowed to go just because.
No, absolutely. And a lot of my journey and my travel, like a lot of what I do is I actually, what works for me is I might study Google Maps of an area I find myself interested in, and I'll see if there's things there, because usually most of these things will be marked at some point, and I'll mark them, I'll star them to visit at a future point. But what's the reward has been, each time I've listened to myself when I don't have any real map or idea or clue. Now you could say, obviously, Ailish going to Egypt, that's, everybody wants to go to Egypt, but that's not why I went. I went as a consequence of my original journey. That's a fine way to go, just because everyone wants to go. I'm not knocking that, but I'm saying for me, it was like, okay, I'm choosing me here and this and here and this and here and this. And then this is where it's allowing my world then to unfold and flower, almost as, or flower, whatever the word is, as a result. So just what you're saying. Absolutely. It's like the rewards come back. I see it's now sometimes too. So there's your human self. Obviously, there's our spiritual self, but there's our human. And our human needs stuff. Basically, it needs us to do things that make it feel good. And it's like,
absolutely.
if you don't honor that human aspect of you, the part that's showing up for everyone, you can only be depleted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there was one more experience that we were going to talk about, which was in Granada.
Yeah, Granada was an amazing spot. Again, not on. So I was meant to go with a friend of mine on a birthday party. It was like about now 3 years ago, and we'd booked to go away for a week to the south of France, or south of Spain, I should say. And the morning of the flight, I had to go get a COVID test, and I got COVID the week before, so I had a feeling I wasn't going to be able to go. But sure enough, anyway, I tested myself the morning of the flight, so I couldn't go. So I just moved my flights down a couple of weeks, and which was Easter holidays were going to be coming up. So I said, okay, there's a 2-week window I found. I can do this window. I was traveling with my daughter, and she doesn't like beach holidays so much. And it's been a really good thing for me because as a result, I've had to find all of these places that I wouldn't, if I'd just gone to the beach and hung out, I wouldn't do these things. So I like to go on a loop. We're flying into Malaga. There's Ronda. There's some beautiful places that are on. If you start looking at where to go, these little Alahuzin, I think they call them, villages, the white, they're just absolutely stunning. So we've gotten we had a little map, but the Alhambra, as I was looking at the map, I saw this stunning, like amazing architecture building in it's in Granada. And I was like, oh, really, I've got to see that building if I go there, if I seen them in the area. So I was kind of looping around by that. So I kept, the only way my trip was going to work, and I don't like to backtrack, was to be in Granada on a Friday night. And I really didn't want to be in the city on a Friday night because I had a really nice hotel that was available, but after that wasn't available on Friday, but was available on Saturday. And it was just how everything was working out. So we ended up being in Granada on a Friday night. It turns out it was Good Friday. The place was absolutely nuts. There was processions and there was music. And it was like, the town has these huge, what do they call them? Like structures that each of the church has. And there's about 7 of them that it takes about 10 to 12 people to carry them. And they're carrying them through the streets from probably 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening until 9 o'clock. And there's bands. It's really quite something. I would recommend if you want like a cultural experience. But I had no idea that was happening. It was just how it worked out. But the Alhambra is absolutely stunning. So it's like Moorish architecture. But in the middle of it, there's this fountain that has, I think, 12 lions on it. For many people, as they look at this, they say that this is a center of a very important spiritual thing. The architecture, the beauty, the detail, just stunning. Even if you don't believe anything spiritually, you like just how stunning it is. When I was in the town of Granada that night, I didn't expect all that was going on. I was walking around. So I went to visit Granada in the evening when I got there, and then I went back again on the following day. That night I was walking around the town and I was like, I know this town. I've been here. And she knew it too. Like both of us felt like we'd been there before. We're walking around and we both were like, okay, like I knew where to go. I knew my way around. Never been there before. Hadn't studied it on a map specifically. I was just like, we just felt so at home there. And so it was just really, it was like, wow. Again, I didn't expect it. What was interesting though, is that I was trying not to do the trip that way. And it's how sometimes we're brought to places by default, right? So sometimes we go places and sometimes we're brought to, and that was one of those places I was brought to. Can't say I know exactly specifically why, but with the way that whole journey unfolded, that was like the crown jewel almost, it felt. It was like, didn't expect it. I thought I'd like to see the building and it was going to be, but it was so much more. And again, so sometimes when things don't work out, they really are working out.
The future, any travel plans in the works?
So I was down in the south of France. I went to Saint Baume, which is the mountain that has a grotto known for Mary Magdalene, living there for 30 years. Fortunately, living in Ireland, it's quite easy to go to these different places. I stopped at this amazing monastery as I see things. And it was this is just from you go to the place that you think you're going to, and then you find other places nearby. Very interested, obviously, in Montsegur and that whole region of the Pyrenees. A lot of people, that has the whole history of the Cathars, I think, in Essene history. If you've followed any into either of those lines, there's Rennes Chateau, there's all these different areas, also to do with, people say Mary Magdalene or other things. I really think it's just probably a very profound area to be in, and that the earth in some of these, so there's energy lines that run underneath the earth, right? So they're called the ley lines, right? Which are dragon lines is what people call them. So they connect all of these different places. And in some places, some of these lines intersect and the energy is quite strong and quite profound in these areas. And quite often it'll turn out afterwards, looking at places that we've been or that I've considered, that they're connected to these in some way or another. So I have a feeling this area particularly just has a lot of that going on. There's lots of churches and lots of places you can visit there. Seville is beautiful. I want to get down around that area too as well. That's got some more of that Moorish architecture. There's a place in the south of Portugal that's very interesting to me also as well, that I might see if I'll bring some other people there, or if I'm just going to end up scooting off and just going. So they're the main ones. And obviously I have to get up to Scotland at some point, visiting Iona and those. I haven't been up there yet, but I had a bar called Iona, as these things turned out when I in New York. I owned and ran it for many years.
Really?
Sometimes these things are set in place way before you actually know why or see any connection.
Wow.
Yeah, and if I'm doing anything for people to join in, like one of the things I'd like to do in Portugal, potentially the place is maybe just bring 8 people. There's a beautiful retreat center down near there, and just to have 3 or 4 days of people being there with some, be it sessions like RTT or some yoga, but really connecting into the earth. I think if everybody just did that, consciously connecting in, being present, I think that would solve so many questions for people. And you could do that.
Yeah, even the basics of teaching people how to do that, because we're just so used to being everywhere else.
Then you starting right there, like starting go like grounding wherever, it doesn't matter where it is, and then you'll be drawn. And I found that I can't push to go places so much, it doesn't work, so I have to wait till I'm pulled there or happen upon them. And that's if I have to push, it rarely does it work if I have to push. I don't actually get there. So.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. And if people are interested and curious about you, we will put all of the links to your socials in the show notes, and they can find out more about what you do outside of traveling, and also your travels and anything that might open up in the future. So we wish you amazing travels for the next couple of years, both by yourself, with groups, and with your daughter. And thank you for giving us some amazing midlife inspiration to just follow that which calls you.
Thank you. And I'll bring you vicariously with me on our next trip. So I'll have your subtle body can join me.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks.